always rhymes with the times, but well, just in case you want to get interactive, you can always do so. We have TV3 Ghana always available for you. We're still in Ghana month right here on TV3 and across the various subsidiaries of Media General. It also means that you have to keep sharing our stream because we have great bonanzas for you. Please make sure you cash out *439#, increase the number of tickets you have, choose option 2, and then also when you get those options, it all depends on the number of times you're able to stake, so that on the dashboard you get your numbers replicated, and then when we have the draws made, you can also become one of those lucky winners. Well, so good morning to Kwesi Mensah in Albany, New York, and always a regular watcher for us. You are celebrating your birthday. So Kwesi Mensah, New York, United States of America, happy birthday to you. Zelis Dwayne has joined us. Uncle Charles Thompson of the UK is also there. Wafaki and the rest of the team as well. Please make sure you share the stream. And we told you early on that we want to do some preemptive discussions on the budget, because tomorrow is the main budget itself. What really are expectations? Already we know that there are a number of actions that we've already been told. For example, Ni Odate Mills would always be asking, hey, Charlie, the country needs to move, like Desiree Marvin, etc. But how do we make sure that we get the economy on track? On Kali J stream yesterday when we had the spaces, and I was on as well, a number of individuals asked questions. The finance minister, Dr. Kessie Olato-Forson, was able to respond to a number of things that will be done, and by way of the tax handles, and then also being very prudent in the expenditure. But how is that going to be done? So we need to look at what the expectation should be, what our needs are, the state of the economy, and then we'll try and wrap up with you witnessing some pockets of doomsday, etc., whether you're in Kumasi or you're part in Accra, elsewhere, or you're in BBNE or Sankore, you'll be getting those power cuts. Look, what really is happening, and when are we going to have some regular, so that they don't become intermittent like they are sparingly, so to speak. Ivan Sibin Samba has also joined us. But let me just introduce our guest. Eduji Tamaklo is a legal practitioner, and then also currently the Chief Executive for the National Petroleum Authority. He's joined us as he always does every Monday. Good morning to you, if he has the time. Good morning. How are you?
Good morning, and good morning to my learned friend and my senior colleague here.
Well, certainly. And then lawyer Apia Dankwa is also getting ready to make sure that he goes to hone his trade at the courts, and he's a regular right here. Good morning to you. And I know that you celebrated your school's anniversary over the weekend.
Yeah, good morning to you. Good morning to you. And, good morning to my colleague and your lovely viewers. Yes, we celebrated our 98th anniversary.
98?
Yeah.
Wow.
98 years of greatness.
Accra. And then also Dr. Tutu Boahing is also here. Good morning to you, Dr. Tutu Boahing.
Good morning, Roland.
Great.
Good morning, colleagues.
Great. And he also lectures in some key aspects of academia when it comes to entrepreneurship and things like that. He's also somebody who invests in the economy as well. And so apart from just being an analyst, he also knows what we need to do ideally by way of the observations and the analysis. We'll be joined by Dr. Samuel Efriye from Kumasi on the stream. But when we have him, we'll please make sure you share the stream. Mark Apenting, you say you love my smoke. I love it as well. Please cash out. Kingston Bisnap Asemega, good morning to you. Flora Combat, you're with the Ghana Immigration Service. You're celebrating your birthday. Please share the stream as well. But
Roland, today happens to be the birthday of a man I have great respect for, the Honorable Dr. Samuel Ofosu-Ampofo.
Oh.
The former national chairman of the NDC and currently a senior advisor to the vice president. Today happens to be his birthday. Okay. So let me use your platform to wish him a happy birthday. And as you are aware, Saturday was International Women's Day. Because obviously it was weekend. There had been a series of activities to mark the occasion. This time is to accelerate action, integrating women, into all facets of our distance. And again, the NDC has demonstrated the highest level of inclusive politics. At least in 32 years, we have produced and given opportunity for a woman to be the first female vice president of the Republic. That demonstrates H.E. John Dramani Maham's personal commitment. In fact, he had the benefit of choosing any other person to be his running mate and now vice. He settled on a woman, just to show the greater responsibility, his personal belief that we need to carry our women along. It is said that God holds half of the earth and women hold the rest. That should tell you how the NDC perceive the involvement of women in our developmental agenda. So once again, happy International Women's Day. All
right. And so we've been joined by Dr. Samuel Efriye. Good morning to you, Dr. Samuel Efriye.
Yeah, good morning, Roland, and good morning to Edgy and everyone. Special greetings to you and your viewers as well.
Thank you. All right. So, but let's take you through what the current state of the economy is quickly as we can.
Sorry, there's an advent. Somebody who watches your program religiously, Chairman Walter. He used to be my former constituency chairman for Lower Manya, and today happens to be his birthday. So, Chairman, happy birthday as well.
All right. Okay, so let's go through what the numbers are by way of the statistics, and we know that by way of what we're being told, the current nominal GDP in excess of 1 trillion, and we'll subsequently also go through a number of variables for you to know the per capita 30,000 averagely, and the inflationary trends have been just over the last 3 months hovering around 23%, and the latest also from the Success Service hasn't also been different. The finance minister says the essence is to make sure that we have stability, there's austerity. So the question then coming from me will be, does it mean that we're not going to spend in some key areas? If we're not going to spend, or we're going to spend, knowing that wages and expenditure already takes a lot, what does it mean? You know, and so those will be very important in our conversation. And you know that the current unemployment rate, some 14.7%, and the debt in excess of 720 billion. So how do we make sure that we're able to keep our expenditure in check as you have it? But Eduji, not to preempt what the finance minister will say, we saw him going around the market and having that level of interaction, stakeholder engagement, but the wider issue is to make sure that the expectations are met. What are the key thematic areas preemptively that you think the budget should be able to cover? Unemployment, education, health, road infrastructure.
You know, so once again, good morning to your cherished viewers. As you're aware, the whole idea is that the economy that we inherited post the December election is an economy that is largely described to be in comatose. The economy has not been in the best of shape. But to borrow what a leader once said, he says he can't pay the day. So you'd always want to manage the narrative, because you do not want to raise the negativity to a certain level that itself will begin to hurt the economy. And so there had been a certain managed communication. But what I am convinced is that tomorrow, by the grace of the Almighty God, the first budget of President John Dramani Mahama will clearly blow the minds of Ghanaians.
How so?
The details, some of which I am privy to, would demonstrate that when a politician stands on the political platform and say, vote for me and I'll do A, B, C, D. He actually means exactly what it is. The details and the kind of thing that the president has, remember that the budget is for the president, just that the minister only raised it on his behalf. Now, in that budget, clearly, the campaign promises in our social contract to the people of this country, we are going to ensure that step by step we'll deliver on it. The key campaign promises on tax reforms, you will see it happen tomorrow. When it comes to road infrastructure, hospitals, among other things, you see it happen. And you see, H.E. John Dramani Mahama made a promise that as a president, one of the things that he's not going to do is to start new projects when there are existing projects that can be completed. Because usually the costs associated with delaying or delays in continuing those projects often tend to be bigger than the initial cost of the project. So one of the things that you'll be hearing will be the greater focus on this. For my people in the Volta region, particularly those affected by the tidal waves, you will see in the budget clear commitment, clear financial commitment to provide a certain lasting solution to the problem. Agri is going to feature prominently tomorrow. Look, I've been looking at the 2024 numbers on our major imports. And strangely, what we usually call yumadie.
Yes.
The tribe.
Yes,
That's
those,
it. Tawo name.
And those.
The one that.
Guess what?
Brofu. You say tribe.
Yes. It's okay.
Tawo.
Yumadie. Me, I understand yumadie. You know, when you look at the numbers, in 2024, we did 2 billion Ghana cedi worth of yumadie. Now, I always say that when you do 2 billion worth of yumadie, what it means is that you have created 2 billion Ghana cedi worth of job out there.
Whether in Brazil or
whether in Brazil, Holland, or wherever, you have done that. So if by just one intervention, in Nkukon Kitinkiti alone can actually be a game changer, just by rolling on 55,000 households onto the program. Look, as we speak today, many households are complaining because of inflationary pressures. The finance minister has given clear indication, and if you look at the numbers post-December, you see that there has been a conscious effort of bringing down those numbers. And there is a firm commitment that will get to the point of single-digit inflation. What is even more important is the issue of treasury bills. You have noticed that so far the treasury bill rates had dropped, as somebody would say, drastically. These and many others, and the depreciation of the cedi. And you see, the cedi depreciation is so powerful that even in my sector, that's the downstream, once depreciation comes in, it begins to affect the price of imported petroleum products. And its cascading impact on household is there for all of us to see. And so what the finance minister and his team, and I want to say kudos to them for putting up this budget quickly. And what you see in the budget, job creation, resetting the economy, and if you look at the work, the lives of Dr. Ishmael Yamsen, Professor Gachi and co did
for the National Economic Dialogue.
The dialogue. What had happened is that, and finance minister had made a point that the dialogue is going to be, the responses from the dialogue is going to be his Bible.
And incorporated into the first.
Absolutely.
Budget. Okay.
And you see, the conversation has been put out there that, oh, when you have solutions, you don't dialogue. I disagree with that proposition. It is that level of arrogance, that level of Kwekwananse, I know it all, where a group of people decided that we know everything and therefore will not include other people in the conversation. No inclusivity relative to how to manage the economy. And the result of that is the haircuts that that people got eventually after 8 years of mismanaging the economy. We do not want to get to that level again. Look, we want a situation where the last time Ghanaians will complain of head cuts relative to the management of the economy will be the Trinity, Anado, Bamia, and Ken, and what they left Ghanaians. So we are very clear in our minds. We'll be focused. And you see, when it comes to the management of the economy, when the one managing the economy does not have personal dealings or interests in the management of the economy, they tend to be a bit more inclusive and broad.
What do you mean by that?
What I'm trying to say is that the current finance minister, the Honorable Dr. Kisela Tuforsen, does not have personal interest in terms of business interest in the running of the economy. And usually when it happens that way, they tend to include other people in economic decision making, which ultimately will benefit all of us. So I am very confident that with a greater focus on agriculture, the issue of unemployment, the issue of inflation, depreciation of the cedi, interest rates, once we get these numbers right, the trajectory will go. But ultimately, what you also want to do is to ensure that people have confidence in the management of the economy. You see, usually when people do not have confidence in the management of the economy, that is when the numbers begin to look bad. And so, at the core of this is to drive investor confidence. Let us not forget that there was a time in the history of this country that Ghana's credit rating globally went to the point where we were described as what? Junk, bola. Or how do you, like bola. Worthless. And in fact, if you go online, I usually use this example. There's this global comedian or something, Michael Blackson.
Michael Blackson.
Exactly. He makes the point that Ghana stole his money.
You say he invested $1 million.
And Ghana, if you look at the storyline, he said Ghana stole his money, over $1 million. You see, it's about confidence. We should never get to the point. Me, when I was studying economics at the University of Ghana, what we're told is that the country will never be bankrupt. And so state or government securities were the safest risk-free investment tools. That was a classical understanding until a group of people took the economy, and now it became obvious that the state can even give you a head cut. So I'm very confident that tomorrow the budget statement that will come will reflect the wishes and aspirations of our people. And more importantly, I've seen calls by Guta and the others saying that they will plead with the finance minister that they should manage the tax issues. Tomorrow, I am aware that a few or more or less major taxes that have been paid over the period will be abolished. And so that alone gives me confidence that when H.E. John Dramani Mahama says on the campaign platform that vote for me and I abolish A, B, C, D, he will do it. So that is the kind of leadership. And I'll round up. I remember during the campaign, we had this song, Muhammad Beye. You understand? Oka Obeye. So tomorrow, what he has said on the platform, you see it translate into how to improve the lots of our people.
But, you know, key to all this is to make sure that we are able to manage what the expenditure side is. Because at the end of the day, we have some recurring expenditure items that constantly have become a concern for many people. For example, there's free SHS. It's financing. Always. The wages, of course, they always take, and then what the liabilities are by way of what you have to pay to creditors, etc. Now, in order for us to get out of the woods, what first step should we be taking so that we don't tend to constantly record numbers like importing $1 billion of tin tomatoes or $800 million of rice, what should be the starting base for which tomorrow you would wish the finance minister makes those pronouncements and give you that confidence in relation to what your thoughts are to become more sustainable?
Yeah, so let me wish you lovely viewers a good morning once again. I mean, I think the starting point when we are discussing issues concerning the economy is always to try and define what an economy is. Then you can situate the conversation within.
Very well.
So an economy is essentially the state of a nation in terms of its consumption of goods, consumption and production of goods and services, and then the supply of money. And then to add that, the role government plays in the economy is in two folds, the fiscal policy and then the monetary policy. We also know that Bank of Ghana essentially deals with the monetary side of the economy, and the finance minister or acting on the president's behalf deals with the fiscal side. And fiscal side essentially is how government raises money and how government spends money. I think it is necessary for us also to situate this conversation within the context of the fact that we are still at IMF, and in the essence of going to the IMF. We all know, I think it is trite that when you go to the IMF, what gives you is stability. IMF doesn't give you growth. What you get is stability, and then it's then the duty of government to find ways of building on that stability by pushing policies that would engender growth. I think in the light of the spirit of fairness, we must also situate this discussion in the context of what happened in 2017. Because in 2017, we found ourselves in a very similar situation. We were at IMF, and government came to read its first budget. And I remember a host of abolishments. It was abolished. And then only after a host of abolishment, only after a year or two down the line, to invite ×7 of what was abolished. A story that is akin to when Christ exorcised some demons from somebody, and then he advised the person, listen, if you don't take care, ×7 of those demons will come back. We don't want that situation. I think we tend to play too much politics in Ghana and don't work. I think if you've watched The Godfather before, the part 3, there was a statement by one Don Lucchese that I think for the purpose of this discussion we need to quote. He says, "Finance is the gun, and politics is to know when to pull that trigger." I think it is important that our politicians, because at the end of the day, what is going to happen tomorrow is a political decision that has to do with how we manage and use our finances. My key expectation, I think, is not too different from what my brother he said. We already have that stability. IMF has given the economy a fair level of stability. I think the challenge is how do we build on that stability? And we can only build on that stability when the budget gives a signal of pushing growth. Because the budget does a lot of things. My brother mentioned confidence, and I agree with him. Because the management of the economy is also a confidence game. You need to give the players within the economy that confidence to have a fair stability. So then the focus of the budget should be to sustain that stability. And there, I agree with your position on how to manage expenditure, how to manage debts and all that. But it must also push growth.
Because something has got to give.
It must push growth. Because what are the 3 biggest problems of our economy? I think the biggest problems of our economy, and those problems find themselves in even the solutions that IMF always give us. We have an economy that does not create jobs. We have an economy that does not create jobs. We have an economy that is unable to generate sustained levels of revenue for government. And we have an economy that is unable to attract consistent flow of foreign exchange. And we find these issues, one, in the perennial depreciation of the cedi. We find that situation in the fact that government is always forced to, by the principle of slotism, to employ people into the public sector when they do not need them, really. That's putting much pressure on the the economy, and then we see the low levels of tax revenue generated. I think Ghana has one of the lowest tax to GDP ratios in a part of the world, and that alone, will ensure that eventually your economy will go into comatose. So for me, I think the focus of the fiscal of the budget tomorrow, in my view, should be to address these issues. And I think these issues were central in the campaign promises of the NDC, because that's the essence of the 24-hour economy. If you ask me, to create an economy that will create jobs, to create an economy that will generate constant revenues, and to create an economy that will ensure that we have constant flows of what's called foreign exchange. Now, I think the fiscal policy tomorrow, for me, must first of all cut the cost of doing business in this country and cut the cost of living. There's a lot of useless tax, and I mentioned about
useless tax.
Oh, plenty. Why are we still paying COVID-19 levy? So I think there's one disinfectant levy or something. Lots of very useless. You see, the central focus of the budget tomorrow must to cut down the cost of doing business in this country. Must cut down the cost of living in this country. Because I said, economy is not just about production, but also about consumption. You understand? For the 24-hour economy to thrive, you must have a situation where Ghanaians have a lot of expendable income, so we can spend, because spending also drives the economy. Indeed, there are
in the U.S. economy.
I was going to mention, spending.
Even in China.
Yeah. Now, it also means that you must also tackle the credit system too. Our banks, the intermediation system. You get the picture. Also, another critical space that needs a critical and deliberate looking at is the SME space. We keep on talking about expanding the tax net. We keep on talking about how do we get the informal sector into the tax net. I think if government deliberately builds the SME, and government can build the SME if it deliberately gives institutional support to the SMEs, deliberate institutional support to the SMEs, and also find a way of getting cheap, what's called capital to these SMEs. But it can even use that as a means of granting them incentive to want to be formalized. As I think we from the movement for change, in the spirit of believing in inclusive government, have had discussions with H.E. John Mama, you recall
about the key thematic areas within the GTP.
Because right after the elections, I think beyond us congratulating them, our presidential candidate and leader took the time to go and meet John Mama, and he gave His Excellency this great book, which in my view, the Great Transformation Plan has the spirit, the character that can transform this economy. And one of our key thematic areas is to say that government must increase financing for small and medium scale enterprises. Government can do that. Government can use its power of fiscal policy and monetary policy to grant incentives to the banks so that capital is made available to these SMEs. And I'm saying that they can also use this as an incentive to get a lot of these SMEs who are informalized, who are in the informal sector to be formalized as a way of expanding our tax net. Because imagine government says, I'm introducing what's called a government loan guarantee scheme. I'm introducing that. So Bank of Ghana introduce that. And one of the key conditions for you to qualify is, listen, you must be registered, you must have a TIN number. Just by that stroke, you can attract a lot of these SMEs into the formal sector. But you can also then deliberately, not just about giving money, but also building their capacity. Because another problem that they face is a lack of the technical know-how in how to manage what's called their business. This business of is it the GA or all those agencies? They just give me, we all don't know how.
Like my learned friend is saying, one of the stories that has always been told is how come that we are not able to build businesses beyond 50 years?
Yeah.
And the conversation
generational.
Generational. And the conversation has always been that the businesses started with very strong men.
Yeah.
However, they didn't put in place the structures
Yeah.
that allow proper corporate governance
Fantastic.
and others.
Yeah.
So once they are no longer there,
You know,
the businesses go. There are interventions. So government, for instance, can say and hear that this business, because of the number of persons you employ,
Exactly.
we would ensure that you grow by putting in place these structures
Exactly.
that allows generations upon generations to pick it up. Look, Facebook, Tesla, and co. The number of persons they employ in U.S. alone, government itself will not have been able to create that kind of.
Just let him conclude.
In fact, as in sort of what we are saying, you see, and I think last week I made that example. See, when you analyze the strong economies, so the US and Europe, we should always consider that how they manage to transform themselves after having gone through almost 16 years of economic death. Because the Great Depression started in 1929, I think. Before it would end, the Second World War happened, which essentially destroyed their economies. How did they survive? As in Europe, America introduced the martial law, so the martial, and then in the US itself, I think in 1952, Dwight Eisenhower passed the Small Business Act, which created small business agencies. So government was deliberately. The Small Business Act, and so you go to America today, in every district there's a small business agency, and what they do is that they give this technical support by finding ways of teaching these businesses or helping them about corporate governance. And then once that is done, government finds ways of using a fiscal policy and this monetary policy to channel resources to them. So this agri that His Excellency John Mahama is just in Cocoa and that was a prize that people loved at. Yeah, because it's this in Cocoa and Ketekete that people want to make fun of.
That is the poultry initiative, the small business poultry initiative.
And all the little businesses, if government deliberately aids these businesses, I bet you, one, we can create the jobs. Because if you go to all the big economies, the SMEs are known factually to be the biggest creators of jobs. We can create the jobs. We can be able to generate the sustained revenue that can push this economy. And with a comprehensive export policy, you understand, to these SMEs, you understand, we can be able to create a system where our export will be so huge that we can be able to then attract the sustained levels of foreign exchange that will stabilize our currency. So for me, tomorrow, my expectation is that we have the stability. Well, that's all IMF is going to give you, stability. But the fiscal policy tomorrow must show clear commitment about how government is going to engender growth. And we are all waiting. I'm very expectant. And I hope that, like Don Lucchesi said, finance is the gun, so finance is the weapon that can engender growth. Politics is about decision making. When do you trigger? And I hope that tomorrow we'll use that political power to trigger the gun,
catalyst,
to engender growth.
Okay.
The growth that we need to transform our economy.
Dr. Totubuahi, especially from where you're coming from, having observed the way the economy has been managed over the last, let's say over the last 4 or 5 years, and where we are currently, the assertion that we need to make sure that we're very tight and then prudent in expenditure would then have to be prioritized, but at the same time, making sure that the investments that are needed are given to the key sectors to create the jobs. Which ones, based on your own experiences, do you think need to be the focus of the finance minister from tomorrow?
All right, so Roland, let me take this opportunity to say good morning to a former colleague, Atadabone of Methodist University.
Interesting name, Dabone.
Who? Atadabone?
Atadabone.
Dr. Atadabone?
Yes, of Methodist University.
Dr. Atadabone?
Atadabone.
Dr. Atadabone of Methodist University?
University, yes. I say good morning to him. And Edwidi, one of your friends, Samuel Siayo, extends his greetings to you.
Thank you.
I think that we need to balance the situation where governments may want to increase revenue as well as, reduce expenditure. And my take on it is that, reduction in expenditure, government expenditure, can take care of the gaps, in the economy, so that government can probably take initiatives in increasing, the tax components that needs to be again introduced. And I'll agree with the lawyer when he said that obviously, if you strengthen the SME side, if you build capacity, it is not money wasted. It is actually money gained. And what it means is that pick certain sectors of the economy, pick on certain SMEs within these sectors, and strengthen them by building capacity, resourcing them, equipping them technologically. In a nutshell, invest in these SMEs, cause them to operate to the highest level, become globally competitive. And what it means is that their tax to government is going to increase. They are likely to employ more people, into their fold. So if you have globally competitive SMEs, about 10 of them or 16 of them, one in each region, the point still remains that you are creating, or probably you are, transferring job creation to these SMEs. That is the first point. So government lessens its burden on creating jobs, for people. That unnecessary pressure where everybody is pointing to government, give us jobs, will be taken off. It will be reduced. And SMEs are going to take care of these, pressures. The next point is that these SMEs are giving government, monies. Beyond that, the people that they have employed themselves are also paying taxes. So instead of looking at yield levy, which is a consumption levy, and putting unnecessary pressure on the consumer, government has reduced that and can even take it away. In that case, people would have more disposable income. People can save more. People can invest more into, some of these SMEs. And individuals can even save enough to create, their own businesses. And I think that is one fundamental thing that government should be looking at. I always make the point that, look, Nigeria has created Dangote and Co. Chinese have created over 1 million, business people. All right. America is making millionaires or billionaires. What is Ghana doing? Are we investing in people? Are we investing in SMEs? And it appears that when Samsung, Hyundai, Kia, and Co. are taking care of roads and estates in South Korea, for us, our government is supposed to be doing that. And it doesn't sit well with us. So much pressure on government budgets. So the next thing is, what can government do? Is the Ghana government going to learn from some of these economies? All right. And then probably develop some homegrown policies, models that will be fit for purpose in this country to ensure that, yes, we are moving on. You see, people spend so much money on food and rent. I mean, a survey that I did some time ago, trying to check the percentages of, money, disposable income that goes into, food and others. Food was the highest, followed by rent. And what it means is that it is because when you look at the entire spectrum of our spending, obviously the emphasis is on survival. And we need food to survive, isn't it? So the point is that, look, a greater percentage of our monies, our earnings, goes into food. And that is why whenever, food inflation goes up, there's trouble. Hunger is not something that people, will entertain. And what does it mean? Is government going to invest in agriculture? Well, and the first time that I moved up north, seeing that stretch of land there, I was asking myself, so what are we doing here? What can we do? Agrarian economy is key. No. Check the history of China, and you understand that their development actually started from agriculture. Have enough to eat. I mean, all the noise that we make about inflation moving to 49%, 50-something% in 1998, 99, inflation moving to 53% in 2004, all these things can never be tackled if food inflation is not managed. Make food accessible.
And currently, food inflation over the last couple of years have always hovered above the average inflation.
You understand? So
currently over 28%.
Exactly. So when we check even simple mathematical equation, will tell you that, when we are able to reduce the right side, it actually gives effect on the left side. Okay. So what it means is that if we can invest in food, if we can invest in agriculture, the president is going around West Africa, the West Africa tour. Mali, he has said what he has to say. You go to Burkina Faso to also discuss what he has to do. But all these discussions will not bring any benefit to this country if we continue depending on Mali for onions and continue depending on Burkina Faso for tomatoes. You understand? When we have arable lands that we can
actually, the onions are coming from Niger.
Okay, Niger.
Even
now,
as far as Morocco.
Yes.
So what is the verdict on planting for food and jobs?
Jobs. That is the point.
So we need to see that that there's a variant or a change tomorrow.
Exactly. So for me,
in the policy direction.
Yes. The emphasis, I mean, GDP expenditure, whatever we are going to do, the greater percentage should be focused on what? Agriculture. Roland, see, I was just checking the statistics when Lawyer Duji was talking. And I was surprised to have known that poultry, over $482 million was spent on poultry in 2023. Importation of poultry products.
So if Nkukon Kitinkiti alone can take even half of that.
And you see, I was coming to that. My point is that, you see, this idea of Nkukon Kitinkiti, if it is going to be under the Ministry of Agriculture, okay, the person should be able to understand that policy and how it works. Okay. Else, what it means is that the president has a good idea. The man implementing it doesn't actually know the left from right. And he's going to mess it up. So you need people who actually understand the process of getting this Nkukon Kitinkiti to work. I mean, when you work the mathematics of Nkukon Kitinkiti, it's quite interesting.
Wow.
Growing up, I have been in that space for some time. I mean, we used to do it to manage school fees and all that. Okay, we used to do rabbits. We have these small structures that we keep rabbits, guinea pigs and all that in there. We go to the refuse dump to pick chicken, small ones to come and,
Is there a good question to say that are we not oversimplifying it? No. But this one is to aggregate the smaller.
Exactly.
Okay.
You see, and I am drawing on this Operation Feed Yourself mentality. A champon. All right. The thing is that just do a backyard garden. Plant about 20, plantain, and when it is time for harvesting, what do you get? So you even have an overflow, which you can equally take to the market to sell. And at that point, a champion thought it wise to bring these yellow kiosks So that if you have an overflow,
like a farm market,
exactly, a farm market,
farmers market kind of thing.
Yes. So you take it to the yellow kiosk, and the person in there gives you money, buys it, and resell. Equally, you can leave it to the person to sell so that you go for your money. Fantastic policy, which worked. You see, and when you check the past governments, especially the military governments, and we see what a champion actually did, it was so marvelous. So marvelous. Now, exactly. You see, and out of that, a champion who didn't even have foreign aid was able to build estates. So that tells you that if we can concentrate, Ghana without aid could have been a possibility, or it is still a possibility. What didn't China do? Look at the population of China even as at that time. China has always led in terms of population growth. So even when they decided to close their borders against, donor agencies, countries and all that, and decided to do with what they have, they were able to manage. And now China has become a force that US is even fighting. Now, check the resources that Ghana has in terms of mineral resources against the resources that China has. And you can see that, look, if we have a deliberate policy or deliberate policies, which we can factor into our budget, okay, what it means is that, look, cocoa will flourish. The average farmer, cocoa farmer in the village will be happy. All right. And there wouldn't be any need for, this kind of freebies, always coming to us. Because you are in the capacity to build your own family economy. You are in the capacity to, generate revenue. And you are not putting pressure on government. Roland, to run up, I want us to emphasize on one key thing.
Which is? Which
governments can pay attention to. I know definitely some aspect of it will be highlighted with regards to agriculture. All right. I'm looking forward to government putting so much emphasis on the youth. These people that you find on the streets.
The Deputy Agri Minister, John Dumelo.
Yes.
If you look at his involvement in agri, from a movie, a celebrity who had moved into agri, and the things he does, even with ginger cultivation, among others, it provides a different perspective to even young people that the whole idea of agri is not an occupation reserved for elderly people. So you can always look at it even from the personalities involved. President Mahama himself is a farmer, which shows what he wants to do.
Okay. So you've wrapped up.
So my point is that the youth should be motivated to go into agri, just as the Deputy Agri Minister motivated himself and went in there. I want to believe that, you see, rural entrepreneurship is about agriculture. Setting up certain specific markets in agriculture within certain enclaves is very important. When you move along, between Greater Accra and Volta region, when you are going to
the plains there,
where they harvest these mangoes and stuff, we can actually establish a whole market on mangoes, so that we know that, look, going through this direction, we are likely to get something
Junction.
like that. Akwese Junction. Moving to the coastal areas, a place like Winneba, fish markets, So if we can identify specific locations and establish markets where, people can send their produce and then be making money, I think that this venture will be very good for us.
Dr. Friye, there are key lessons to be learned, because I think instrumental in all the policies of all governments, not only in the Fourth Republic, but over the years, has been the effort to make agri or invest in agriculture. What do you think when it comes to this budget, the expectation should be the lessons that have been learned from those investments that have been undertaken in agriculture, whether it's planting for food and jobs, etc., for which, for this time, if those investments are undertaken, we need to see the real value. So you produce, you make sure that there's value creation. At the end of the day, also leads to some level of import substitution for some key products, so to speak.
And thank you very much. And also, I would like to side with Dr.
Tutu
Buahi. Yes, about the SME some few minutes before I come to your question on agri.
That's fine. That's fine.
You know, yes, the SME is one of my area. I did my research at the PhD level in SMEs in Ghana. And what he's saying is right. And we have not been strategic enough trying to focus most of our attention that is at the SMEs. You know, the total scale of business in Ghana, I realize that SMEs holds 92%. The employment is almost about 80%. GDP, the share of SMEs in GDP is what? Is about 60%. And we have more than 2 million SMEs in Ghana. What he was trying, I don't know whether he has lived in China because I've stayed there for a while, and comparing the SMEs there and how they are able to focus much more on agri. If you have a population of more than 1.3 billion and they can feed themselves without any much food inflation, there is not as compared to ours, as currently we are having about 28.1%. That is not what there, because I was wondering if these are these huge population and they can feed themselves, food is not a problem. Food is not taking part or a bigger share of their disposable income. Then how much more we about 33 million on 35? So what is wrong? Which means that we have not been strategic enough in focusing on certain areas that will have a multiply effect in our economy. All what we do is that we tend to be on tactical basis. We solve immediate problems, but not being strategic. And that is the major cause of our leaders not trying to focus on some of these areas. Just to your the agricultural sector, you know, Brazil and Thailand was having this challenge as we were having, but they made an effort. The government decided to focus on agri, to make structural changes, to bring reforms, focus on people, encouraging and making that sector attractive. And now they are not having any problem. And you know that, as Mr. Tutu Wine said, when you invest in agri, the multiply effect, we will not be importing 2 billion yamadia into our country. I was wondering, everything that we import into from Mali, from Niger, all these things. So I believe that the way we have not able to strategically focus on agri is what, and the agri, as you said, about value chain. And I think that maybe that is why the NDC government has added agri-business to this, the ministry, because we only focus on the traditional or the natural side without looking at added value at each stage. Because even the small SMEs, we have the agricultural SMEs. How are we focusing on that? And also looking at the commercial or the bigger agricultural. These are the things that we all have to focus on. And if we don't do that, and I'm expecting that the budget will give critical steps into these areas, tax incentives for people to invest in agri, invest in value chain in terms of agri. And that one will help us a lot, especially on our food inflation. You see, food inflation has been one of the major components of our inflation. And Roland, I can bet you that as we deal with students, you can see that people are struggling on campus because of this food inflation. Everyone. So we are expecting that the budget will help. But you know, the budget, practically the effect might start from, I think, maybe June, July go with, because if some of these taxes has to be off, you need to send it to Parliament so that approval will be given. At the same time, you also need to build confidence. That is what I think the business community, everybody is in expectant mood because the business community want to see how this government will make their business environment attractive. So everybody is expecting, especially the business community and also the ordinary Ghanaians, how to lessen burdens of people taking trotro, people taking whatever. So the budget for tomorrow is an expectant budget that everyone is expecting how they can also have a share in the governance of the NDC in terms of financial aspect of it. So, Roland, I believe we all have to work together to ensure that some of these things are off. And as I said earlier, we should be strategic enough to make sure that we invest in SMEs, invest in agri, and hopefully we tend to look at the energy and the cocoa is also critical. The energy critical. The business community can strive on stability, yes, in the electricity, the charges and everything. And also the cocoa industry, as he said, is collapsing. And I believe that the budget should tell us something about how the cocoa industry needs to be turned around so that it gives hope to our employment situation of our youth.
Okay, so we all just take a last round of just 3 minutes. Look, the important thing is that we take a gradual step. So the foremost step then will be, Eduji, does the government have the guts in relation to the promise that it gave? That if we take agri, for example, the effort to do that import substitution, it will be undertaken. So, for example, a contract is given that supply tomatoes, then we know that that supplier will certainly would have to go to somebody who is an outgrower locally and not to go and import somewhere else. Do we have the guts to be able to take that decision? Have you been given those assurances as you come to communicate for government?
I think President Mahama had moved beyond demonstrating the issue of guts. He's willing, ready now to deliver. What are the benchmarks? The man himself has said that I'm going to have a minister focus also on agribusiness. Look, the decision to even decentralize the feeding arrangement for free SHS can itself be a game changer, because that is how you grow the agribusiness. So that a secondary school in the Volta region should not be buying food from Accra. Where can you have cheaper vegetables in Volta region than to come right here and be doing those purchases in Accra? It does not make sense. Look, anybody from Sablugu right into Walawale side, that land, that plain, can grow anything conceivable. But you are buying rice for secondary schools from Accra, in Sablugu, or Pontamale. It didn't make sense. It did not make sense. There are secondary schools in the northern regions of this country. Why in God's name should you be buying rice for them from Accra?
Or importing from China?
My own senior brother, lawyer Inusa Fuseni, Mutala and Co. They are major rice farmers, Akando and Co. They are into serious rice farming. So you can buy it from them. So look, like your question is, we are going to ensure, and always remember that government is the biggest procurement entity in this country. So that if we focus even solely on productivity in Ghana, buying what we have grown locally, that alone would change a lot of things. Because you see, how do you even grow local economies? The woman who is doing the maize is selling it to the school. The man who is doing the poultry in Kukonkutingkiti will give the school kids eggs. Even the school themselves should be able to produce some of these issues. The secondary school I attended, we knew that every Tuesday, in Wanta Secondary, every Tuesday, we'll go to the school farm. We have a large palm plantation. So issues of palm oil and stuff, we were doing it ourselves. These things are doable. We just have to reorient our minds that once we do, look, somebody was drawing the causal link. That if you are doing 2 billion Ghana cedis of Eyemwadie, what it means is that there will be downward pressure on the Ghana cedi. Yeah. Because you are not going to buy Eyemwadie with cedis. You buy with dollars, euros, or pounds. You understand?
So the question I ask is the government willing to take that hard decision?
More than willing. That is why I'm saying that H.E. John Dramani Mahama himself has demonstrated that firm commitment. Right. Even the mere fact that we are going to decentralize, even the feeding in school, the free SHS alone, should tell you the commitment of growing local economies, local farmers, among other things. So that is going to be the focus of the government. What more than to have a ministry dedicated to agribusiness and to have my own Dr. Peter Otukuno and co lead that particular conversation.
We've seen this before, right?
No, this one is not seen. We are going to do it.
So we've seen this before. Nice rhetorics. So how do we hold government, the individuals who have been put at the various institutions that are supposed to make sure these deliverables are met? So if it's, for example, at the PPA, you make sure that, well, this is the consignment that the ministry, Cocoa Board or whatever, they say they want. PPA gets the approvals. They say it's supposed to be competitive bidding. That is done. Then we don't have suppliers giving us products 80% from somewhere else in Asia. And then we have only 20% coming locally or even 100 at all. How do we make sure those are fine-tuned?
I think it's an...
Just in 3 minutes. Yes.
It's an excellent question you asked. And it falls in line with my view that the biggest problem we are facing in this country really is one of lack of commitment and then lack of integrity. Because I was going to say by passing laws, but I think we have laws that whose focus are supposed to empower the local what's called indigenous economy. I think that issue has always been enforcement and commitment and integrity. Also, you don't need to look too back to see an example of where government clearly deceived us. And I give you an example in my earlier submission about in 2017, a host of abolishment, only to see after a year or two the reintroduction of more than what's called times 7 of what was abolished. For me, I just want to go with faith, and then also call on the people of Ghana to be alert, and in the spirit of holding government accountable. I think the signal so far has been positive. From the part of government, he's created a ministry that's supposed to push the what's called agro-business agenda. We'll see in this is first budget how they're going to use their power to raise money and also to spend money, whether or not the focus will be in pushing the Ghana agenda. So yes, it's a matter of we having a little bit of faith, and let's see. And where we think that they are deviating from those agendas, not to keep quiet, but to speak in the spirit of holding government accountable. Because I said, just to land, that His Excellency John Mahama can't fail. I think it's the responsibility of all of us to help him to succeed. And that help could also be in giving constructive criticism. So we are waiting, we'll see, we'll analyze where we feel that he's deviating. We would ensure that we help him by bringing him back on track. And
stemming from this, Dr. Tutubuahi, would mean that key private sector stakeholders and institutions would need to give some level of support. Because constantly complaining is that you need to reduce taxes on imported items, etc. We have Guta, they're always on the neck of all the governments, and even made a donation to the Kufuor-led campaign at the time with the expectation that they're but they are the same people who make sure that they bring the imports in. What sort of leverage, support should be given to these well-intended policies if, as they appear in the budget tomorrow?
So, you see, let me start from the first angle. Let me explain.
You have only 3 minutes, sir. 2
angles. So the first angle has to do with the indigenous local industries. I mean, take a walk on the Enyinem Nkoko Road.
Enyinem Nkoko Road.
Yes. You see this earthenware, manufacturers. Okay, over the years.
The roadside.
Yes, what
have we done? The Volta and all that.
Yes. over the years, what have we done to build the capacities of these people? They have created their own markets, but how can government, create some other market, which is a more improved market that will give them more revenue than what they are currently earning? I mean, can government promote their exports? Recently, I read an article which talks about, China and the fact that this, you see they have this porcelain kind of industry, and it is collapsing because the old people are dying and the new guys are not ready to
85.
take over. All right, they are not ready to take over. Now, can we bring some of this expertise in here to ensure that we take advantage of that market? Looking at the Guta, this morning I was listening to reports, from the Guta president indicating that government should not increase taxes.
I heard him.
And I was like, why this? I didn't get him. I didn't understand him. Because, you see, genuinely, he, the Guta president...
It's part of the problem.
I'm not saying that, but...
What are you saying?
Let me build my point. That if he is directly involved in importations, okay, can he bring his partners down here to set up the factory here? That is the question. Can he do that? Can he get his contemporaries, to do same? All right, so that the money that we are using, we are expending to bring this over 400 million, worth of pottery, we can have that factory here. All right. Can he mobilize resources, discuss with banks, and then set up that factory here
and
to
his
produce?
Partners.
Yes. You see, so these are some of the leadership concerns that we are raising.
Prof, you know that one of the things GM want to do, which was in the campaign, was the distribution of free sanitary pads, for instance, for the young girls in school. Imagine having a factory in Ghana that is going to produce these sanitary pads and distribute. That alone means that you are keeping the money here. So just wait and see the budget. It will address some of these concerns.
So that is one of the things that, leadership should be looking at. It is not just always government. But the question is that if you find yourself in such a position, what kind of innovation thinking are you bringing out to ensure that the leadership you are providing is going to sustain that industry or that business for a long time? We are talking about generational businesses in Ghana and the fact that businesses collapse, isn't it? Coca-Cola, 1886, is still functioning, and it is a global brand. Guinness, 1759, it is still surviving, and it is a global business. So why do we, lead companies, and then within a space of time, the company goes off? I think that some of these things, we need to look at. But I wouldn't also say that government shouldn't also equally support. Government should also do what it has to do to support some of these things.
Dr. Free, and lastly, just in 3 minutes, how do we need to make sure we also give the needed support, at least some room, and as we measure the implementation of those policies to be announced in the budget from tomorrow?
I think what we need to do is that I think much more will come from the government, and the government needs to add, at least need to have more consultations or engagement as they implement, that is the government implements its budget. There should be a continuous engagement. At the same time, the government should also be a listening government. Most of the time you see that when these things start, the budget implementation and things, and then you try to voice out certain issues that is not helping, then the leaders tends to be adamant to accept some of these kind of issues. So as you continue to engage, they should also be listening to the voice of the stakeholders, especially the business community, and they should make the environment attractive. That is the business environment, especially taxes, giving some free taxes to business that are coming up, new ones, and also ensure that business that tends to be innovative, as Dr. Tutu was saying, Tutu Bwani was saying, the business community should not relax. At the same time, the government should also have certain kind of attractive packages for businesses that comes up with new things, innovative ways of improving processes, kind of ways of doing business, and so that we should avoid the situation of buying and selling. I think most of our concentration has been on buying and selling, and that is what is hitting most of us. So, Roland, we are all in expectant mood, and we believe that the budget will handle. It cannot handle all issues as we find out, but most of them it can solve an immediate ones and also look at the long-term view as well.
Just a minute, have you been experiencing the intermittent power cuts as you are in Kumasi, and what have been your experiences?
The experience is, as you know, is we also have that challenge as well. And when the weather is hot, that is where you feel the impact of it more. So, but I believe that the energy is an area that the government has to look at to ensure that we have stable electricity so that we can run ourselves. I think it's a perennial kind of challenge that mostly our government has not been focusing because of, and that's why it has led to a lot of debt. And I believe we need to handle the debts at the same time encourage private participation so that we can have a stable power for all of us.
Okay. So what's the explanation for the intermittent power cuts, Ediji?
So I can tell you that my sector minister, the Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapo, is doing everything under the leadership of President Mahama to fix this problem that is ongoing. But I can tell you that it is not the doomsaw that we have. But I have always maintained, when somebody's light goes off, the person is not looking for explanation. All they want is light. And that is exactly what this government is committed to. We are not going to, as it were, gaslight people by giving nomenclatures, names, doom CSA, doom whatever, or whatever, doom call, doom bed, all kind of thing. No, there's a problem. My minister has put together a team to get these matters, resolved ASAP. Because the 24-hour economy program would definitely need available electricity at all times to run it. Because one of the key components of the 24-hour economy is especially in the night, giving businesses or industries that opportunity for you to produce at night with a certain lower tariff arrangement. How do you do that if light is not available? So it's a priority matter, and I've been part of meetings chaired by the chief of staff, basically on these matters. So it's a major concern of government, and we are never going to toy with the mandate.
So it will be resolved.
Absolutely.
Because I know that we're told that there was pigging being done with the West African,
and which is done now.
Okay.
Which is done now. Right. So a lot of things. Very soon you see massive improvement.
Well, your experiences so far?
Oh, it's on and off. I think I've had my fair share, but we also need to be fair to the current government now. We came here around November, talking about the energy sector recovery program and how it was a massive failure and the debts there. So it will take some time to solve this problem. In this what's called entirety. But having said that, I think we need to have a holistic relook. For me, like I said, I feel the solution is in the energy sector recovery program. I think the 20th in his first term, in Mame's first term, he solved the production issues. Maybe it will be his duty to solve the...
No, like I said, look, the chief of staff is basically on all of us within that sector 24/7 to get this matter. And plus John Mahama, when he says he will fix a problem, he will fix it.
In fact,
and like the economy, like electricity, like many other problems confronting us, he will do it. Just trust him.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that, like he dealt with the production side, probably it will
That
be
the generation, yeah.
his duty to solve that's what I was going to say. And I think I've heard the energy minister talk about trying to explain the privatization issue. I think that's the way to go. I think it's important that
not to sell ECG, but just the collection and others.
Yeah,
that's
so
all.
I think that's the way to go. So I think it's important that people in government have the courage of conviction to introduce and support the right policies that will solve the problems that we are faced with in the long term. But I think in the short term they must find
some solutions
to it, because we can't.
You know, he made the point about the Ghana Gas Phase 2. That alone,
the one that will be put in the budget for construction.
That alone will bring additional gas on stream. So there are a lot of interventions. We want a solution that will be lasting and not the thought
approach. Yeah.
You know.
So hopefully, because without the energy, I think you were spot on all these lofty ideas about 24-hour economy and about.
It's all about power.
So let's see. I'm hoping that we will see efforts to solve this issue in
as
the
quickly
budget
as possible.
in the budget tomorrow.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Just 2 minutes for
Same
you.
question.
Your experience, yes.
Yeah, I think
just
that,
your experience.
Yeah. The experience actually is not good. Winneba, we are suffering, and in Accra, where I stay, we are suffering.
You get intermittent.
Yeah, but you know the point is that in as much as we may look for a long-term, solution to this, I feel that again the sector should be liberalized. Okay, and I'm talking about PPP. In the solar energy sector, for instance. I mean, solar technology has come of age, and so if government can, as it were, encourage, solar generation. I know that in Germany, right, you could, if you are staying in a particular location, you could invest in solar, partner with, the energy generation.
The buyback.
Yes, exactly, the buyback policy. And
I
think
you generate
that
and then you put it into the grid.
Exactly.
It's even in excess. You use for your own. The excess, you sell it off.
Methodist University has that generation. I mean, it has been installed, but they need a push to do that. And it can, I know it can supply half of Dansuman. With
Who told you that?
I was there. I had worked in Methodist University.
Now the ministry is Ministry of Energy and Green Transition.
Okay.
Some of the things that we want to do, and we found that it will be the initial capital.
I'll be very happy if you can take a walk to Methodist.
You taught at Methodist University?
I taught there for more than 10 years.
More than 10 years before going to the University of Education. Exactly. Let me just read a couple of minutes. This one is coming from Kwame Osei-Bonsu, who says that we all have to give government the support, but they should also know that we'll be watching them with keen eyes. Absolutely. The way they criticize the Akufo-Addo government is the same way they are also going to be matched boot for boot. And, well, landlord Borga D-Line also says, when the people feel part of the government and see the government to be theirs, no one will steal from the government. It will mean that if you do so, you'll be stealing from your own self. And, well, I have this one from Robert Coleman. Okay, Robert Coleman.
And good morning to Robert Coleman.
Okay, Robert Coleman, good morning to you. Chief Executive for the Wembley Sports Construction Company Limited. And also used to be a former communication manager for Zoom Lion, company I work for as well back in the day. And he says that good to see Edu G. I'm happy that he finds time on your show every Monday, irrespective of his busy schedule. A lot of NDC communicators have stopped appearing on shows, and tell them it is not good for them. I'm a former communication manager and an expert in the area as well. But however it is, they should also find time and know that other sectors contribute to the economy, including sports, where sporting facilities and then the the nurturing of talents for football as well as other sports.
We are going to introduce the inter-schools.
Okay.
You know those days.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
the whole idea of
Robert Coleman says
games alone was.
So Robert Coleman says you people should build more sporting facilities.
Prepare to sponsor Milo games.
That's all. All right, and then AJ Boating says, I feel doomsaw right here in Kumasi. It is not prolonged, intermittently happens. The last time I also traveled to Bibiani and I experienced a little of it, just an hour or two, but still government needs to find a solution to it. They criticized the previous government, so they should know that the same criticism will happen. Jerry Amedro says, agri-business is getting extinct in our schools, and if we don't take time, the interest will dwindle among the youth. The least numbers in our secondary schools these days are those reading agriculture, and so it will mean that the needed investment in the budget would also needed to be supported, and that is what is needed. Thank you, gentlemen, for passing through. It's been quite. I wish we
can only appreciate you for the opportunity and the platform, particularly from our end, to speak to matters that government is doing, and we do that with all humility. Once again, thank you. All
right. For those who are also joining us on stream, we're happy that you've joined us. Richmond Sechi, please, you can also cash out. It goes with short code *439#. So all you need to do is to increase the number of tickets you have after selecting option 2. *439# is available for you. I see Shaibu Fatawo, Eric Baden, Isaac and Lesinya,
Chairman Prosper.
Chairman Prosper, as well as Chairman Godwin Tamaklo of the Rage Group as well, and all those who tend to. Kwesi Mensah celebrating the birthday today. You always watch us from the United States of America. We're grateful. Pajo also on our stream. Francis Datus and the rest of the individuals who are watching, we're grateful as well. Please make sure that you tend to. Atukwe Kwe, you said budget of hope. Okay. Now, Prince Naniao York, good morning to you as well. Okay, now, let's also tell you about why looking for the right spot to unwind, enjoy great vibes and feast on amazing food. Look no further than the lounge, which is the L Lounge Sakumono. L Lounge Sakumono is your ultimate hangout spot. So come to the L Lounge Sakumono, the ultimate hangout spot. On Wednesdays, a games night, free wings with every drink or cocktails. On Fridays is the mixed mingle night, accompanied by great music, amazing people, unlimited cocktails. On Sundays, the traditional buffet with live band music, always available. Authentic local dishes with soothing live band, and L Lounge is located Community 14, Reginald Gray Estate. You can call for reservations. These are the numbers, or the number 055 524 2836 for reservation. Wish all the best. Make sure that you join us after the break. Still right here, Ghana Month, TV3 New Day, right here.